This video was sponsored by War Thunder.
We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Everything is inverted, and the Beatitudes tell it, I think, the most crisply. Everything is sort of the opposite of what you think it's going to be.
Whatever happens next in America, I hope it's in this direction, because God is here, and you can feel it.
On October 7th, 2025, YouTuber Jax Films posted an image of himself on social media alongside the caption, "When the fajitas come out sizzlin'." This became quite controversial. In one example, a response by the account Raw Egg Nationalist reads, "It's incredible that these people exist, but they really do. These are the people who justify the demographic replacement of Western countries in terms of the variety of street food and how many different kinds of fried meat and vegetables in a flatbread they can buy." Take it back. This post received over 17,000 likes and spawned hundreds more expressing basically the same sentiment, as well as making memes depicting Jax Films as the soy Wojak. The urban liberal white cockroach feeds on the multicultural dumpster because he disavowed any culture of his own. Whaleful bottom feeders. Just so you understand, this is the kind of thing you should be embarrassed about. It's an instant soy jack. Something you show friends to display a pathetic gay nerd weakling nobody ever wants to be. He became a meme and a caricature of a feminized, rootless cosmopolitan, treat-loving, sad product of modernity. Everything wrong with a world that has sacrificed traditional values and masculinity at the altar of multiculturalism. All of this because in one humble Barney's Beanery restaurant, the fajitas came out sizzling. I was going to film more while I was out with the baby, but he started crying and I just realized it was very impractical. We used to hear a lot about the idea of cultural appropriation. The idea specifically of a group of left-wing zealots lashing out at anyone who wanted to enjoy products of cultures they weren't born into, out of a concern they were doing it in a way that was exploitative or disrespectful.
This is culinary appropriation.
Culinary appropriation?
Yes, you have culinary privilege.
Culinary privilege? Culinary privilege.
Now, in 2025, we have this. I've never had a curry or a kebab and don't intend to. British food is the best. English breakfast, Sunday roast, fish and chips, pies, pasties, scones. I said what I said and I stand by it. You snowflakes are what's wrong with this country. Political correctness gone mad. Lately I've been getting the increasing feeling that the world might be getting more intolerant. And I thought this story was probably the most fun, light way to introduce this topic in a video. I have some less fun, light things to say. But first, a word from our sponsor. Do you like War? War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is also free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile devices. And it is also the sponsor of this video. War Thunder allows you to take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of various national origins and designs. Take part in epic PvP battles with these incredibly detailed vehicles and realistic graphics, placing you right at the helm of some of history's most powerful weapons of war. Personally, I know nothing about history or war, but I am a big fan of covering my vehicles in fun paints and other in-depth customization options. I also like the different game modes, whether you're in the mood for more of an arcadey experience or something more realistic. And when you're on the go, the mobile version runs pretty great too. And the best part is, if you check out my link down below, you can get a massive bonus pack, exclusive to PC and console. New and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months can receive new vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, Eagle of Valor, 7 days of free premium account access, 100,000 silver lions, and so much more. Once again, use those links in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video, and thank you. Maybe this is a silly thing to say, but personally, I'd never heard of the Raw Egg Nationalist. It turns out he's a popular Nazi influencer who explicitly blames the fall of Western values on the integration of non-white communities.
I don't think that it's just about ideas. I think it's about demographics and ethnicity, and I think it's about the fact that America is fundamentally an Anglo nation. And
an Anglo-ethno state.
And I've written about this.
It's followed by the current vice president on Twitter and has been referred to by the official US government account as a patriot. So that's interesting. He also thinks Pepsi has aborted fetuses in it.
Bro has no chill.
A weirdly large number of people have really tried to break down the raw egg nationalist ideology in highly intellectual terms, which seems interesting, but I am much too busy playing cookie clicker. So my version is to say, you can really get away with chatting a lot of shit if at the end you say something about getting your country back.
Own nothing, live in the pod, eat the soy. The best response to this is a strong politics of nationalism. The nation is only as strong as the individuals who make it up, and that's where raw eggs come in. I'm just channeling the wisdom of the ancients, really. I'm a vessel.
In between having a complete mental breakdown at sizzling fajitas and the concept of an edible fake egg, Charles Cornishdale has been promoted by Fox News pundit Tucker Carlson, starring in an hour-long documentary advertising his views.
Here's his message.
The enemy today is what I like to call soy globalism. Increasingly large numbers of men are dropping out and ceasing to be men and ceasing to do the necessary things that men must do. Those kinds of societies obviously become weak and ripe for dissolution. I've tried at various times to sleep on the floor, but it's a bit too much for me.
And is frequently boosted on Twitter by its current owner, which... You know, some might observe that the right spent decades accusing everyone that disagreed with them of being funded by billionaire George Soros, and now literally all of them are being openly bankrolled by a man with $470 billion more dollars. George, I have a family to support. So I don't particularly have some big thesis about the raw egg nationalist. By all accounts, he seems fairly privileged and educated. He knows about the French Pyrenees.
The French Pyrenees.
I don't know shit about the Pyrenees, and I don't even think it's real. He posts bait, which is to say, he is deliberately dumb and ridiculous because that makes it easier to attract specifically a dumb, ridiculous audience. Either people who enjoy it ironically because they like the idea of having an in-joke, or who enjoy it sincerely because they actually believe the femboy globalists are trying to stop us drinking raw milk so we can't become the Ubermensch. And they want to feel... normal. This really is the crux of the issue, because I don't really know what a normal person is anymore. Clearly I'm meant to look at Jack's films here and see a freak, girlishly chowing on his bug slop because he himself is a bug.
Something resembling slightly more a termite or an ant than the free man of the steppe or the forest.
And clearly there's a concerted effort being made by the wealthiest, the most powerful people on the planet to make people like the raw egg nationalist seem like the normal ones in this dynamic. And I find it hard to see that.
I'm a faithful raw egg slonker. Thank you to the raw egg nationalists for preaching that gospel to all of us out there.
I'm instead reminded of a bit from the recent movie One Battle After Another, which I won't spoil here. But basically, there are white nationalists, much like the raw egg nationalist in the film. And specifically, a lot of time is spent by these nationalists obsessing over who can be trusted to be a part of their group. At one point, there's even discussion about one of their loyal trackers who still hasn't ever been properly invited in because of his mixed-race heritage. In their mind, this itself means he can never truly be trusted with their cause. There is at least the suspicion that he has dual loyalties. I feel like on a basic level, this is what it boils down to. People with a severe pathological fear and revulsion about trusting others at the loss of their own power, manifesting in a desire to form increasingly bizarre and esoteric clubs to ensure everyone around you is effectively you. Until we reach the point where membership of the club includes a 2-minute hate for enjoying a kebab or a fajita in an unmanly way. Or woke sourdough.
Back to a nice slice of bread. Normal, fluffy bread, not woke sourdough.
Specifically in the case of white supremacists, it really isn't about whiteness. Whiteness itself was a nebulous amalgamation of dozens of cultures loosely packed together to make it easier to categorize slaves. Fundamentally, it's always been about having the club. And I've always felt that this obsession with the club is very sad.
Get off the fence, you mean? Yeah. Pick a side.
I recently rewatched a Louis Theroux documentary on him meeting families within the far-right white Aryan resistance, and more than anything, it just seemed like they lived an extremely depressing, fragile existence. The kind of existence where you have to memory hole your leader consorting with Mexicans because it so obviously contradicts your values, and completely flip out at the concept that you might be talking to a Jewish person.
I thought it was time to leave.
But I think what struck me even more than that is just how nice it felt to see people like this on the complete fringes of society. It was kind of nostalgic to think of a time when someone's saying things like, we need to fight against the great replacement of the white Christian majority, was just sort of a weird social reject who crumbled into a ball on contact with the real world. Obviously, people like this have always existed, and in any kind of free society, they will exist to some extent. The difference is that I used to feel like those extreme views were increasingly niche, that they were always veiled with the understanding that an average, everyday person is becoming unreceptive to it. I used to hear people say all the time that racism and sexism and homophobia were over now, and if anything, it was the people who kept pointing it out that were creating more problems. The Nazi Party was defeated like 1,000 years ago, and my belief that any of this could be comfortably put to bed waned and waned so gradually, I didn't even notice.
If I'm black, I know where to go. What do you mean I know where to go? Yeah, I'm saying exactly every single one of us.
I look vegan! I look black pudding! Bring on the full fucking English.
I have drawn amazing inspiration from the MAGA movement.
America was at its peak when we halted immigration for 40 years and we dropped our foreign-born percentage to its lowest level ever. We should be unafraid to do that. We should not put up with all these different pockets of culture. You assimilate towards the American culture. One culture, Americanism. We have one culture.
The American Democrat Party hates this country. They want to see it collapse. They love it when America becomes less white.
We've ramped up deportation numbers. I think part of that success comes from people like Charlie applying pressure.
The Great Replacement strategy, which is well underway every single day on our southern border, is a strategy to replace white rural America with something different. They want to go after you.
And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts.
You believe in God, country, family, faith, and freedom. And they won't stop until you and your children and your children's children are eliminated. Buy guns, everybody. Buy guns.
Charlie Kirk was not a healthcare CEO. He was not a powerful politician. He was just a f***ing guy.
Charlie Kirk was just a normal guy. I don't know if anyone else felt a shift in reality when Charlie Kirk was killed.
Only men have penises.
It's a woman's penis!
The left can't win. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Remember, I'll always be with you.
My friends, for Charlie, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America, and he is a martyr for the Christian faith. May our Heavenly Father give us the courage to live as Charlie lived. That is what we must do for Charlie. You ran a good race, my friend. I love you. We've got it from here. Thank you.
He was a guy who talked about politics. He was a guy who had conservative beliefs. Because despite what people in their little bubble believe, his core ideology and what he believed is the same shit like your conservative boomer uncle on Facebook posts.
The Great Replacement strategy, which is well underway, won't stop until you and your children and your children's children are eliminated.
So the very first thing I saw on my feed on hearing about his shooting was this clip of Charlie Kirk's daughter running up to surprise him after, I think, a segment on Fox and Friends. At that time, it hadn't been confirmed that he'd been killed, and my instinctive reaction as a new parent was empathy. Like I was literally holding my own newborn in my arms as I watched the clip, and it reminded me of our shared humanity, whether or not I was well aware that Kirk's views completely opposed my own. Now I make that clarification because in all practical reality, I do think Charlie Kirk and his platform got people killed. Without exaggeration, Kirk explicitly pushed a narrative of a vast conspiracy by Democrats and the left to flood the country with immigrants to erase the white Christian population. That the white population needed guns because you believe in God, country, family, faith, and freedom, and they won't stop until you and your children and your children's children are eliminated. It's not a great replacement theory, it's a great replacement reality. You are being replaced by design. At a time of mass unlawful detention and abuse of immigrant families by ICE, often with no legal justification whatsoever, Kirk insisted that America must be unafraid to purge its immigrant population to bring the country back to its peak, that these were cockroaches, and that this is what we voted for. We want our country back. The spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. The American way of life is very simple. I want to be able to get married, buy a home, have kids, allow them to ride their bike till the sun goes down, send them to a good school, have a low-crime neighborhood, not to have my kid be taught the lesbian, gay, transgender garbage in their school, while also not having them have to hear the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day. These two threats are combining forces to come after us, and it's time that the church rises up and stands against it. Charlie Kirk loudly proclaimed that abortion was not just murder and not just comparable to a Holocaust, but 8 times worse than the Holocaust.
That's how we get Auschwitz. That's how we get the greatest horrors of the 20th century. Those people are unwanted.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's nearly 8 times worse than the Holocaust.
Both before and after the brutal assassination of Democrat politician Melissa Hortman and her family at their home only 3 months before his own killing, at the hands of a radicalized anti-abortion extremist. On transgender people, Charlie Kirk made the same Nazi comparisons by saying doctors that perform gender-affirming treatments should be put through Nuremberg-style trials.
A Nuremberg-style trial for every gender-affirming clinic doctor. We need it immediately.
Called trans people themselves an abomination to God.
A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God. You hear that, Thomas? You're an abomination to God.
And even at the moment of his death had been pushing a false story that they were responsible for the rise in mass shootings.
So, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years?
Too many.
At every opportunity, Charlie Kirk found ways to frame white Christian Americans as being in an actual militarized conflict with the left and immigrants and other minorities at a time when the US government was engaging in militarized occupation of the country with exactly those justifications.
I think we should flood the zone. It's already working in Washington, D.C. Chicago is a next perfect test case. You bring in the tanks, you fly the drones, you send in the Marines. It worked in D.C., it will work in Chicago.
We don't need a white paper. We need Marines. We need bombs in Fordo, hard business numbers, criminal in cages, and illegals getting tackled in the streets.
We're going to go city by city, block by block. It's time for a federal takeover of Chicago. We've been calling for this for quite some time. I think we're getting closer.
Now it's time for us to scale it to all of America's greatest cities. We have a control case of a week. Let's spread it out to a month. And then let's turn America's cities into the safest in the Western Hemisphere.
And he did that from the position of being a co-founder of a massive political propaganda machine extremely closely aligned and connected with the president carrying out these actions.
And I think that made him such an effective operator. And I would talk to Charlie and say, Charlie, well, look, here are the reasons why, and as you've seen, Tucker, we've ramped up deportation numbers. But I think part of that success comes from people like Charlie applying pressure.
He was a critical part of getting Donald Trump elected as president, getting me elected as vice president. And so much of our success over the last 7 months is due to his efforts.
It would actually be a struggle to find a political pundit whose activities and advocacy are more closely tied to America's rapid descent into martial law and violent division. He was not just a guy like your uncle, shoe-on head.
I made an egg look like his face. It is safe to say I was no fan. You don't get it, do you? We are all Charlie Kirk. Oh, if you want to stop being called a fascist, you should stop being a fascist. Yeah, that's great, except you've called everyone and their mother a fascist and a Nazi for the past, 15 years.
That's how we get Auschwitz. 8 times worse than the Holocaust. A Nuremberg-style trial.
I used to say
that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't... Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
All I know is it is clear how they reacted to this is how they would react to me, my family, my friends, you, your family, your friends. But if they would celebrate an exact clone of you that wasn't you,
stupid Muslims,
that had all the same opinions,
You're an abomination to God.
or some of the opinions,
Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. Karen emailed us. She said, Charlie, it's time for the Karen name calling to stop. I cringe when someone asks me for my name. That's sad. You did nothing wrong. It's like a mass discrimination. Could you imagine if we did that? They are mislabeling an entire racial group for something they did not do to try to create a prejudice. Could you imagine?
If you run in circles where you regularly encounter people more extreme than Charlie Kirk, that really says a lot more about you.
Normal people have to log into like an alternate Twitter account where they can post their more unorthodox opinions.
And it's frankly pretty irrelevant to the significance of his specific position and what he used that position to do. Obviously, Kirk didn't control the Trump administration, but at every chance he laundered their actions and justified their constant dehumanization of anyone who wasn't, once again, a white, conservative, Christian American. You can say his killing was tragic, that the world is now a worse place for it, that it had a personal, emotional effect on you. I understand all of those very human reactions. But I also understand the human reaction of hearing that a man who dedicated his life to breaking apart your family and destroying the lives of you and your loved ones so effectively that he'd reached the ear of the most powerful man on the planet, and not being especially sad about it. And yes, continuing to be clear on the views he expressed. And yeah, if you want, taking the piss. I think that's pretty normal, actually. Far more normal than any of the beliefs Charlie Kirk propagated. I would suggest that if you can't empathize with the people who feel this way, it might be because you consider them less human.
They are atomized bug people. Bugmen.
Slightly more a termite.
Also, I'm going to be the one to point it out because of course I am. I saw nobody else do it. Why are most of them women?
You had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped. And she was going to give birth and
the answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
It's nearly 8 times worse than the Holocaust.
Submit to your husband, Taylor. You're not in charge.
Why are most of them women?
Anyway, here's how the media reacted when someone called Charlie Kirk right-wing.
Now, the American right-wing commentator Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed in what's been described as a political assassination.
So there you have it, James. All the cues, far-right guns, exactly what you were talking about.
Disgusting.
It's so far removed from the real man.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year.
I wish that was the only horrific statement that was made. It gets worse. Here's more coverage from MSNBC.
Charlie Kirk is a divisive figure, polarizing, lightning rod, whatever term you want to use.
Again, divisive figure. I mean, how on earth? A husband, a father has just been killed and he was loved by so many people. And we saw him, of course, lose his life doing what he loved, fighting for America.
Charlie Kirk was, for a few weeks, quite possibly the most whitewashed man in political history.
To liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going. Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it.
Now, when we think of what it means to be an American, as someone by the name of Islami Muhammad, yeah, I don't think so. You need to have the signal markers. You need to have the proof that you are all in. None of this like multiple passport stuff. None of this dual citizenship stuff. Everyone says, well, we just need immigrants to come legally. We just need immigrants to come legally. That's not true. Omar Fatah came here legally. Ilhan Omar came here legally. Rashida Tlaib, her parents came here legally. Zohran Mamdani, came here legally.
To even refer to the things that Charlie Kirk actually advocated for was grounds for active US government censorship. That isn't hyperbole, by the way. Journalists were literally pressured out of their jobs for directly quoting Kirk's opinions about black women. All critics were widely condemned and harassed, often by the exact same people who regularly either joked about or directly called for violence against their political enemies.
When that fucking burnt himself to death because he was a fucking schizo that thought it would save Palestine, I joked about that like crazy, and everyone was laughing their head off. But now I can't say a single thing about their single irreverent comment of not even specified towards his death gets fucking. What are you doing, Joe? Why are you saying that? If this was a black person that had died or something, or a trans person, you would be fully supportive of me saying whatever the fuck I wanted about it.
I mean, Joe Biden is a bumbling, dementia-filled, Alzheimer's, corrupt tyrant who should honestly be put in prison and or given the death penalty for his crimes against America.
The vice president himself endorsed a movement to expose the names, addresses, and workplaces of anyone who didn't respect Kirk or his legacy. In fact, it wasn't even enough to say his death was a tragedy if you didn't do so without qualification.
Having to qualify their distress at Charlie Kirk's death by first of all saying, I, of course, didn't agree with anything he said. And actually, does it matter what his politics were?
No. For most of the time I've had this channel, I was a US visa holder and almost certainly would have just been deported for saying the things I'm saying in this video. I'm actually a citizen now, so have fun trying to get that revoked. On the bright side, if you do try and do that, it will bring my channel more publicity and support than I could ever possibly imagine. So yeah, up to you, really. Kirk's memorial set the stage for a so-called conservative revival as his death became an officially recognized day of mourning. Outpourings of support came from anywhere from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to former President Barack Obama. And incidentally, no, none of these people had had a word to say about Melissa Hortman's assassination only months earlier. The point here is, I think, pretty clear. Almost unilaterally, between the mainstream media and political establishment, it had to be made clear that Charlie Kirk wasn't the great replacement Christian nationalist that he was, but just a normal guy who liked to have conversations. In former George Bush speechwriter Joshua Trevino's assessment of the Overton window, he suggests 6 levels of public acceptance for political ideas. First, unthinkable, then radical, then acceptable, then sensible, then popular, and finally, policy. This isn't about deciding when politicians make decisions. With enough executive power and military force, politicians can make decisions that are wildly unpopular. More than anything, it's a way for those politicians to understand what ideas are already popular and find a way to market their own ideas around that. Most of the whole blank washing category of political strategies go here. Pink washing is a way to market politics to an LGBT crowd. Red washing is a way to market politics to a socialist crowd. That's right, it turns out it's all marketing again. And more recently, there's been discussion of sane washing, most obviously of Trump himself, who I believe recently posted a video of himself shitting all over America, but also of the people promoting and elaborating on his ideas and actions. The Springfield pet-eating hoax, wherein Trump made absolutely false, completely unfounded, and genuinely, if you come into my comments and are still arguing this point, you are too stupid to live, accusations of an epidemic of Haitian immigrants eating local residents' pet cats and dogs. Acknowledging the utter fabrication of this claim, J.D. Vance defended the hoax, stating, "If I have to create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do."
Oh, hello there.
I'd like us to return to the case of the sizzlin fajitas. The trouble with the Overton window is, in a very politically divided time, people tend to have very different lines on what's radical versus acceptable. I am fully aware that this story originates from the Elon Musk website, and will therefore be several notches more racist and stupid than anywhere touched by sunlight. And sure, it wouldn't be hard to scroll through Twitter or Facebook or the average Instagram comment section and find opinions I think are heinous and in any sensible world would lead to a person's total rejection from society. It's honestly kind of absurd how easy it is to find examples online of hundreds of people publicly cheering on the mass death of refugees, and every one is, in my opinion, utter fucking scum. And maybe it is just catching myself scrolling more lately that's giving me this feeling of dread, that maybe what being a normal person means is shifting fundamentally. And I tell myself it's just because I'm on sites run by billionaires who want to see the proles distract themselves with a race war. And then these little cracks in reality form. Lucy Connolly is championed as an icon for free speech for saying she wants to burn all the refugee hotels down with them inside. Meanwhile, the exact same groups promoting her condemn rhetoric against Charlie Kirk, with Reform Party leader Nigel Farage saying, "I have always accepted that there is just one limit to free speech, and that is when you cross the line from argument and opinion over to incitement of violence." Could you explain the details of Lucy's argument? If political or media figures launch ad hominem attacks on those they disagree with, repeatedly comparing their opponents to Nazis or mass murderers, I think the case can be made that this amounts to incitement. What an interesting opinion! Politicians like Zohra Mamdani and Shabana Mahmood have actual calls for their citizenships to be revoked because their ideas don't match this rapidly shifting Overton window. And everything starts to feel redefined. Like, apparently now the only people who care about having a home with a family or living in peaceful places, like the only normal people, are the fucking raw egg nationalists. And what I thought was just a normal way to think, to not live in constant fear of my neighbors because their backgrounds aren't identical to my own, is freak stuff. Now I'm the weirdo because I genuinely don't think multiculturalism failed or we need to return to tradition to solve our problems. All I wanted was to see those fajitas sizzlin. Now I am the lonely, childless bug man.
You can't say to these people who are celebrating this and justifying this, you can't say, what if that was your dad or your brother getting killed for their opinions, because they've already cut those people off. They've already cut those people off out of their lives. And posting videos and pictures of Charlie's wife and young kids will not move these people at all, because they hate their lives, they hate their families. They are atomized bug people. They are the unfortunate product of modern society, and I feel bad for them, I do. I pity them, and I wish I could help them, but I have bugman fatigue.
If people like Sean Head want to call me an atomized bug person that doesn't care about children or family because I won't adequately lionize Charlie Kirk, they can do that. I've heard the conservative cliche that having children or a family makes you less concerned about the wider world than its injustices.
I say this non-sarcastically. I say this as a husband and a father. Having children changes you. I hope that America's biggest pop star marrying ends up conservatizing.
I remember for years people would be like, oh, when you have kids, you'll change your mind on X, Y, Z. And I was like, no, that's not gonna happen, no. And they were right. Almost overnight, you stop being so selfish, nihilistic. You stop having utopian fantasies of wanting to live in a post-capitalist society. And all you want is for the world to be safe. For the world to be safe and normal. And all that matters is your family and your community. And then your country, and then the world.
When my child was born, it was while I was in the middle of a months-long project researching Zionism and atrocities against Palestinians. And the reaction I had was the opposite. When I read about events like Deir Yassin or the Galia family massacre I mentioned in my last video, I couldn't stop transplanting my baby onto those thousands of babies dead at the hands of the Israeli government. I couldn't stop transplanting the grief of those surviving parents onto myself. Family wasn't an excuse to cut off my care and consideration for these people outside of my own community or country. It expanded that feeling. It reminded me that these same overwhelming feelings of love and fear are shared by almost all of us. And if I want to be true to my own humanity, I should do what I can to support these families struggling so much more than I ever could. Charlie Kirk used his platform to call those people stupid Muslims and then laugh at them. And that wasn't because he had his own family to care about. It was because he made a choice to be a cruel and hateful bully working to create a crueler, more hateful world. 3 weeks after Charlie Kirk's death, 17-year-olds Isabella Salas and Maria Niotis were riding their bikes when they were struck and killed by a Jeep going 70 miles an hour in their 25-mile-an-hour neighborhood. The killings were allegedly a deliberate act of retribution after the two girls shared videos critical of Charlie Kirk after his death. The driver, Vincent Battaloro, had been stalking Maria every day both at school and at home, even after having a restraining order filed against him. No further action had ever been taken against him. On a completely unrelated note, his uncle is also the local police chief. Days before the incident, Battaloro spoke about Maria and her family on a live stream, first to say they had a stupid fucking name, before going on to say, "Hey, whenever Maria sees the pizza guy come, better think of Charlie Kirk for making fun of his fucking death. Stupid ass clown. Just remember that. She made fun of Charlie Kirk's death on TikTok on a repost. Maybe her mother should monitor her social media activity." From Battaloro's persistent obsession with Maria, it seems pretty clear his delusional fixation with her dated long before Charlie Kirk's death. But the fact is, the death of these two girls, either way, is almost completely unknown. Certainly completely unknown internationally. There was no great rallying call among politicians to bring justice to the families of these targeted children. There was no widespread condemnation at this seemingly politically motivated terror attack. There was little to no national media coverage, let alone a national day of mourning. Keir Starmer never even sent a tweet, and the fundamental difference is that Charlie Kirk's story was politically convenient. It was a way both to launder his extreme and hateful views through the classic strategy of Jesus washing.
I'll always be with you.
And it was a way for politicians desperate for Trump's approval to signal their devotion through honouring one of his fallen foot soldiers.
I mean, firstly, on the question of Charlie Kirk, can I just express how shocking that is, I think, to everybody who believes in free speech and in democracy. It sent shockwaves through the world.
The story of Isabella Salas and Maria Niotis is not convenient to anyone. It's definitely not convenient to local law enforcement, and broadly it's not convenient right now to suggest there are consequences to the way we are having our empathy radically reshaped for us. Through the collaboration of political and media complexes, the Overton window shifts again, and we find ourselves in a place where it's normal to think of human life, particularly of minority groups, as so inherently without value that its loss is meaningless if it can't fit neatly into a political campaign, if it can't somehow get us one step closer to forming the club.
Crazy Nancy Pelosi who ruined San Francisco. How's her husband doing, by the way? Anybody know?
I am the only figure from the other side of the pond that has consistently stood behind Trump, stood behind the MAGA movement. I have never wavered.
Also in my last video I referred to the concept of unpeople, specifically in the context of Israel's occupation of Palestine, and the ways media and politicians historically give vastly more weight to the value of Israeli lives than Palestinians. I am right now reading reports of Israeli airstrikes killing 80 Palestinian civilians after the declared ceasefire, and the top story among both the press and the political establishment is whether Tel Aviv football hooligans get to go to a game after rioting through Amsterdam chanting death to Arabs and harassing random Muslim locals. This is the state of our Overton window, where empathy is limited to the political allies of fascists and the violent racists who turn their words into action, where free speech is arresting thousands of protesters against genocide and deporting people for accurately stating what a man believed, and loyalty to this worldview must be tightly policed in even our most innocent behaviors. This is the new normal we find ourselves in. This video is really more intended as a document of a specific time than an attempt to single-handedly change the culture. But I do hope we can collectively see this and do what we can to bring it back. Because for fuck's sake, fajitas are Tex-Mex.
And be sure to like and subscribe.
Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you consider liking the video or commenting underneath it or supporting with super chats or tips on Ko-fi or on Patreon to be on the credits scrolling now. I'm ending this month with a Q&A video, so if you want to ask a question, just go to my community tab and ask it under the post there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On October 7th, 2025, YouTuber Jax Films posted an image of himself on social media, along with the caption, "When the fajitas come out sizzlin'."
Good morning, Glenn.
I made an egg look like his face.
Also remember to use the links down below to claim your epic War Thunder bonus pack. Don't forget to play it for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile now by using my links in the pinned comment or video description.